Okay, and give me a moment here to pop out chat. And through. All right, there we go. We're good. Yeah, sorry about being so late. Almost 8 o'clock already. Whereas I haven't done 8 o'clock in a few weeks. And the reason for this is Comcast decided to go ahead and go. Yay. So, as the title says, today we're going to be doing book-shaped dice towers. These are not really intended for resin printers because, number one, most resins tend to be a bit too brittle to be a dice tower, and number two, because it had to be a little bit chopped up. You see, if I remember correctly, it's just under 80 millimeters this way, about 120 millimeters this way, and 200 millimeters vertically. So it's a little bit too big for most resin printers. On the other hand, it's perfect for Ender 3, CR10, Prusa, Anycubic Mega, whatever. Now, if you're watching this after the fact, don't forget like, subscribe, bell icon, the usual nonsense. Anycubic Photon is amazing for miniatures, not so amazing for dice towers. Now, the next thing that we're going to do is that we're going to go ahead and load in ZBrush and pop over. This is the basic shape that we're working with. This is our book-shaped dice tower. As you can see, it's got baffles in it that when you drop the dice in, it's going to bounce forward, then bounce back, and then come out down this way. So, what we're going to do next is we're going to, or rather what I've already done, is I have chopped off the spine and the sides, because this is what we're actually going to do our sculpting on. And in fact, when it comes time for the individual cover sides, we have them also split off. And yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to first decide on what kind of book we're going to sculpt. Now, is anyone in here yet? No, it doesn't look like it. So, there we go. That's what I'm supposed to do. So, what we're going to do we're going to give it a moment and count to about 20. And if nobody's in, then we're going to turn this into, let's say an evil book. Okay, now, one of the first things that we're going to do is we're going to go, and I should have an IMM chain. That's insert mesh brush. And we're looking, and IMM chains. Okay, we're going to use the chain brush, and we're going to basically start from here. Alright, first of all, that's way too small. Second of all, I think we need to go ahead and turn on lazy mouse for this. So let's turn that size up to about there. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to start over here. No, that's not looking good. We can do without the chain. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to, first of all, turn off lazy mouse for stroke. We're going to switch to the dual covers. Okay. And we're going to select the border. There. 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 And there. Now, we're then going to go down to extract 0.025, extract, and this will pull out that. Oh, no, it won't, because I forgot to hit accept. Accept. I need to change batteries real quick. Now, we're going to deselect that, and just to show you, this is the rim on the cover of the book. We're going to be adding something else. We're going to use the X so that we get both front and back, because this is going to be kind of squiggly. We want them to be kind of balanced. Actually, what we really want, we want it to be an all four. Oh. Let's see what happens if we transform the Y. Okay, no. Just Y. There we go. No, not even Y. Just X. Okay. Oh, I see. Yeah. That's the old ones. Okay. Whoops. Now, what we're going to do next is we're going to do those little corner arrows that some of the older books have, especially fictional grimoire types. But they're going to be less little metal arrows and more disgusting tentacular things. This is going to be a book of chaos, of hate, of demonology, of corruption, and all the other nonsense that goes with being a book of demonology. So, gonna get this out. Okay, now we're gonna hide that. We don't need it on. And let's see, let's make this a little bit bigger. Just a little bit. Oh, yeah, there we go. No. Let's turn on lazy mouse just so we can. And we're going to erase and make it sharp. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing here. Okay. Just kind of, you can see how what I'm aiming for here. Mm-hmm. Okay, and then no. Okay, now we're going to make the frame visible. Extract is 0.05. Extract. Accept. Draw. Draw. And then we have our frame. Okay. I think they were like on Gum Road. And answer the question about my the chain brushes and that. I think they were from Gum Road. Alright, I'm going to Dynamesh this. Geometry. Dynamesh 512. And divide once. Delete lower. Okay. Now, once again, we're going to use symmetry to get these pieces looking right. And what we're going to do is going to layer. And the alpha, we're going to resculpt alphas. No, we got to go to CS Tools Alphas, NGM bolts, and just a very simple screw. We're going to change this to drag dot. Not deep enough. We're going to make it bigger or deeper. There we go. 1, Okay. There we go. We're basically going ahead. This is the screws and rivets holding the cover in place. Whoop, too far close to the edge there. Yeah. And I'm sure someone will eventually carve this into the, because I'm going to be releasing the blank version for free. I'm sure someone will eventually sculpt this into the Necronomicon, but that's not what we're going to be going for here. And now on this piece, we're changing the alpha to be more of a large screw piece like that. And we're gonna 1, 2, 3 make this big enough. We're gonna put this on the corner. No, not big enough. There we go. And then one coming up over here, and then one coming up. Nope, need to come this way and up that way. And then we're going to do something similar down. Actually, we need to shrink this a little bit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to drag it down to there. No. We're going to change the alpha one more time to this. And there we go. There. There. And there. And there we have the bracing on our frame. And we can start working on the actual covers one at a time. Alright, this is the front cover. Oh, excuse me. Okay, there's only two of us. There's only me and Largash. We're going to start with the clay build-up tool, and we're going to switch to the round alpha, and we're going to make this a bit bigger. And what we're going to do is we're going to make it quite organic looking. And by that, I mean we're going to be making it like intestinal. Where am I going? Okay. Go ahead and run over this and then apparently Mom was watching America's Got Talent. Yay. Okay, excellent. This is looking pretty good so far. Okay, and that is our starting organic-y feeling for the front cover. And now we're going to go for the back cover. And this one is going to be a little just as organic-y, but it's going to be a bit more radial. It means we're going to start off with some thing there. Anyway, so apparently, alright, so I got a new cat tree for the fur balls the other day. And apparently, my 13-year-old has decided it's hers. She doesn't like it when the others come up there and start messing around as if they have the right to be there, which they kind of do. And you'll notice that it's a different style than a slightly different style of organics than the previous, but it's still enough to where it's keeping the same overall look. This could be like a plague book, or maybe a book about the corruptions of the flesh, or something. Who knows? Let's make them both visible, both front and back visible. Okay. Now, that's what we currently have on the front and back. It'd be time to add in a few other things after this. But first, we're going to see what happens when we go to Geometry, Modify Topology, Close Holes. Good. Control C. I just wanted to make sure it would close like that. Okay, now we have things to add to the front, which include a turn X off. Make it a little bit bigger. Uh-oh. And increase lazy radius a bit. We're gonna put a somewhat curved placard on the top front. And the bottom. We're then going to turn off Lazy Mouse. And erase hard there, erase hard there, erase there, and erase there. Then we're going to turn off transparency. We're going to extract out .055. Extract. Accept. Draw. We're then going to use move. Make this a good bit bigger. And we're going to grab and pull out just a little bit just to make sure that it comes out. Okay. Now we're going to geometry and we're going to dynamesh it at 500 or 512. Frame in, divide once to give it some polygon density to play with. Excuse me. And we're going to go to Orb Cracks 2. Reduce the size to about there. And we're going to write on some ugly chaos runes. Nope. We need a little bit wider. And a little bit deeper. Just adding in this basic kind of fancy, almost Cthulhian runes. And yes, that last one is supposed to be Cthulhu himself. And this one we're going to a variant on the Elder Sign. Okay. And now one last thing we're going to do. This is going to be kind of weird. We're going to the back subtool. And we're going to insert your 3D. Now we're going to first move it. And pop that to there. Always got to have an eyeball on the back of a strange book. Oh, yeah, let's make it the back. And now we're going to deformation, size, about there, yeah. Bring it over until it protrudes out from the back. And let's bring that back over. Okay. Now we're gonna proceed to turn this into our nifty little too strong. Turn on transparency. Turn on orb cracks 2, and we're gonna make much bigger. Oh, real quick, let's convert to nice 3D. No. Geometry, divide, delete lower, and then trim rectangle. Control Shift. There. And now we make it into an eyeball. We're going to do that with first polish density 100. Okay, no. We got to change that to C sub. No. Go ahead and make this drag dot. Too big. And then we're going to deformation. We're going to inflate it just a little. Then we're going to masking. We're going to inverse. We're going to blur mask. Deformation. We're going to deflate. And that's just to give us a nifty anyway. Now we're gonna there we go. There we go. Okay. Now we're going to standard Z sub. Go back to the back. Reduce the size. We're going to kind of push this out of the eyeball. There. Now we frame out. And we got an eyeball on the back. Okay, so what's going to happen now? That's the cover for the first of our books. Now, one thing that we're going to do, we're going to have to reduce the poly count on some of these items, and we're going to do that with Dynamesh 512 instead of 768. No. All right. So instead of 14.3, we're down to 7.4. Still quite a lot, but let's try and reduce that to 256. In case you're wondering what I did, I smoothed on an area I already knew was about as smooth as it could get. And the end result was that it allowed me to re-Dynamesh. And you'll notice it's still got the pages, it's still got all the detailing it needs. So now, going from here, alright, so now we're going to take this, we're going to merge down twice. Make the frame and name tags one piece. We're going to geometry, 256, Dynamesh. It goes, yeah, much lower. Okay, now both the front and back pages, we're going to, before we Dynamesh them, we're going to use cap holes. So close holes. And then Dynamesh 256. Okay. Now extract 2, which is the back. We're going to geometry, and we're going to close holes before we do anything else. Dynamesh 256. Bing. Okay. Now we go back up to the book. We're gonna merge. We're gonna skip down twice. Merge down, merge down, merge down, merge down, and we have the entirety of this daemonic book as one item. Now we hit Control Drag, and it's gonna Dynamesh it into a single piece. And we're waiting on it to close holes. And I think I may have messed up. Now, one good thing about ZBrush is if I did happen to mess up badly enough, it's got multiple levels of recursive autosaves. And I might just have to use those. Oops. Give me just 1 second while I yeah. Time to reboot, not reboot, but restart ZBrush. Oops. Now, while we're doing that, I'm going to grab a sip of soda. Okay, and now we go back here. Okay, now this is the recursive saves. And you'll notice that apparently this is the most recent. There it is. Okay, it looks like it did not save the eyeball. Not save soon enough. We were working a little bit too fast. Oh well. I can deal with not having the eyeball in the back if you can. We go back to Orb Cracks 2, Stroke, open up, Lazy Mouse turn off. Z sub, increase that intensity, and we're gonna draw some more squigglies back in. And that's going to be just, let's see, is this oh. Okay. There we go. Alright, now, just to make sure, we're going to go ahead and once again close everything off. Okay, so we got a subtool. These, we're going to Dynamesh them. Actually, merge down. geometry 192. Actually, that's where I need it to be. And that drops it down from 10 million polygons to 343,000. But it still keeps the detail of the screws, which is what we needed. Now, the front, we go to geometry. Now watch what happens when we do this, since we can see it now. Modify topology. And close holes. Okay. Actually. Alright, good. Then we go to the back. Geometry. Close holes. Subtool. We're going to merge the frame with the pages. Go to geometry and Dynamesh. Okay. Now we're going to the big blank book sculpt. Geometry Dynamesh of 256. And 1.82 million. Now we're gonna move it down just for a second. Pop that, and we're going to inflate it just 1 point. That's just enough to cause it to overlap a bit. Subtool. Merge down. And control draw. And there we go. It is now one solid piece. And it does not have any flaws in the baffles. And it has a nice little organic cover with a frame. And now it's 1.93 million polygons. That's more than most people can print. So instead what we're going to do is we're going to go to Z plugin, Decimation Master, and we're going to make it 150,000 points and 300,000 triangles, or about 1/6 of the current. And we click that button, analyzing mesh. And now it should be almost done. And there we go. Reading goes Z file. Poly count 300,038. Yay! And it still kept the detail we needed it to, which really and truly is going to be more than the average printer. As I said, it's about 200 millimeters tall and about 120 long, and as of the addition of the details on the sides, probably close to 85 to, no, probably close to 90 millimeters wide. Okay. The dice holes are large enough for 40 millimeter dice, and when you consider the average large die is 30, that means you can take a couple handfuls and just bounce it from here to this wall, then back to that wall, and then out here. We're now going to export it. And we're exporting it to 3D Printing Home, Meshes, Further Dice Towers, and this will be Organic Book Dice Tower. And that's what we have here. As you can see, it bounces down that way. and then it comes back to the back of the book, and then down that little ramp, and hits a tiny little speed bump, which causes it to do one more backflip and not come out too fast. Now this does mean that some of the lighter dice will kind of stop there. You can just tip your book. It'll pour right out. But anyway, it's now 10 till 9. Let me go ahead and pop to face screen. Wee, it's me. Yeah, and I don't have many people watching, but I still got to show this off. Some of you can see this big yellow box back here. What this big yellow box is heavy. What it is 200 bottles of watercolors. Watercolors paint. And just to show you, one of the things that watercolors did on their paints that I really appreciate on each of the bottles, which by the way the plastic the bottles are made from is very transparent. You can't tell from this particular one, but it is. What you have there, I'm going to go ahead and open up my I don't have my camera controls open. Go ahead and open the camera settings. And move this. I'm gonna focus in. Each paint has listed whether it's transparent, translucent, semi-opaque, like this particular yellow, which is yellow 2, opaque, or very opaque, which their one-coat paints are. And as you can see, I currently have them temporarily sorted. You know, this is semi-opaque. We got some opaques, technical paints. The technical paints have a lot of translucence and things like gem paints that are very similar to the gem paints that Citadel has, but they've been out a little bit longer. Anyway, I need to actually go back through and, once I've gotten paint racks for them, sort them by color. It would take 4 racks this size to store them all. Or I can get nail polish racks and put them in that. I'm thinking the nail polish racks might actually be a better option. And yes, we have a visitor, hasn't been by in a while. Everyone say hello to Carlton. Yeah, Carlton. Yay. Buddy. Now, the plan is, I have over here 4 figures. They are my painting practice figures. I have them primed. White, gray, black. Let me turn these guys around. White, gray, black, and zenithal. And I'm going to paint all 4 of these with the same colors and the same techniques. Alright. Oh, I should note, that 209, that's the entire line. Now what made me decide for this was I experimented with one bottle of magenta, and I liked it. And I wanted to experiment with the whole line, and it's got a lot of technical paints that I normally wouldn't buy on my own, but could be very interesting to play around with. And then, of course, everyone knows that coming up in about a week or so is the release of the Citadel technical paints, or specifically their new contrast paints. Apparently, they're not. There's been a couple paints that have already been. There's a couple paints that have already been released, but not advertised as contrast paints. To be exact, the Hexray Flame and Night Gaunt Gloom are apparently pre-release contrast paints. They were testing the water with them, so to speak, and saw how well they sold and decided, hey guys, look what we got! Now, from what I understand, what these contrast paints really are is they're something akin to inks like the Agrax Earthshade, but they've got two different pigments. A lighter weight, lighter tone pigment that will tend to settle everywhere, and a heavier, darker pigment that will settle in the cracks and grooves and undersides of places. Which is how it gets that effect of you paint one thick coat on a primed miniature and it's base coated and shaded. And then you highlight on top of that. Yeah, it's not a one-shot solution for anything, really. It's a great way to base coat and shade all in one, or base coat and line if you thin it down a little bit. It does not replace skill. It replaces certain techniques. It does not replace all techniques. It is not going to be a be-all and end-all, but it is a big time saver and a big lifesaver for people who aren't that great when you're painting mass armies, especially armies of single or limited color palette like Space Marines or Tau. 2 or 3 coats of that for Tyranids, that sort of thing. Not quite as good on ones that require a little bit more attention, like Orcs and Imperial Guard. And you better buy a lot of different contrast paints if it's going to be something with multiple colors, like Eldar. I might get myself a couple of the contrast paints just to play around, just to see what happens, how they do. But what I'm more interested in is the new primers, simply because these new primers, this is a typical white primer. Now, you can't tell, but the most 90% of white primers are what's called titanium white, which means they have titanium oxide as the pigment. And there's only so far you can grind titanium oxide. So whites will always have a slightly rougher finish than grays and blacks and other colors. Do you mind, Furball? Oi, Carlton, what are you doing? No. Yeah. Anyway, so the end result is the new primer is a white that does not use titanium oxide. It uses a special pigment. It's a finer pigment. And it'll be interesting to see how well that works. Especially if my little experiment has the white version showing the best. Now, if you're not familiar with this figure, it's one that I designed on this show a few months back. And the basic idea is that it has multiple different surfaces. It's got, obviously, skin, cloth, hair, rigid metal on there and the waist plate, a gem, mail, and then leather for the pouch and the boots. And the inside and facing of the shield can either be wood or practicing freehand coat of arms and other painting types. So I can pretty much practice everything on one figure. And with that, I can just test everything on one figure. You know, just decide on it. And you make sure to use the same colors and the same number of layers and the same techniques on each one of them. The fact that some of the paints are translucent or transparent means there might be a way to use them on top of the zenithal primed figures without having to really go all the way down to glazing. So this one might be kept out aside and done separately. Anyway, exactly board. You can practice all sorts of types of surfaces. Metal, leather, cloth, skin, all of it. And I designed it explicitly for that. And it's a very simple pose, kind of flat. It could easily be cast and mass produced. Buzzbutt, what are you doing? Get out of the trash can. Carlton. No, Carlton. Get out of there. Yeah. Carlton was getting into the trash can. Yay. Anyway. So that's the basics on the paints and my opinions on what's coming up with the contrast paints. Now, later tonight, I'll be putting both the blank version and the demonic organic thingy version onto Thingiverse of the Dice Tower. So if you want to use Blender or Sculptress or ZBrush or Mudbox or whatever you want to use to make your own variant of cover for this box, go for it. Ugh, excuse me. Don't ask why I'm so tired, because I don't know. Anyway, it is now 9 o'clock. I've only been on for a little over an hour, but I've been expected to be on for an hour and a half. Yes, I call them Fuzzbutt. I have different names for all three of the cats depending on my current attitude. They're getting into the trash can, they're Fuzzbutt. They're being snuggly, they're a little fur ball. And if I'm really angry at them, Fuzzball. And right now both of them are looking at me like, what? What did we do? By both of them I mean the two black cats, the ninjas, so to speak. Regular viewers will know I often have a white cat up here that's Shinju. She's 13 and right now she's enjoying the new 5-foot tall cat tree. I got two little black cats. You've already seen Carlton. And here's Ralph. Do you mind? Ralph? Hey. Ralph. Pay attention, will you? I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Yeah. This is Ralph. Yes, they can tell the difference. Hey. Buzzball. Yes. Because see, if I had called him Furball, he would have been like, huh? Hey, Furball. You can't hear it, but he's purring. Now, get up. Come on, Velcro Kitty. Get up. There we go. Down you go. Shoot. Good boy. All 4 of my cats are unusually affectionate. Unusually affectionate. On the one hand, this means that when I'm broadcasting, they'll frequently intervene. On the other hand, they're actually intelligent enough not to mess with when I've got my tablet in my lap. Usually. 3 cats. I'm at 3 cats. 2 black cats, Ralph and Carlton, and Shinju the white cat. All 3 of them are unusually affectionate. Anyway. Ugh. We used to have a roommate that had a cat, but there's a long story there that made me upset. Let's just say that a 3-year-old cat was taken to a small town animal shelter. The kind of shelter that is not no-kill and never adopts out cats because nobody comes in wanting a cat in a small town. They always want dogs down there. And I'm not happy about why they took him or her to the animal shelter. And the fact that they didn't ever let me know. I found out through somebody else. And they knew that I loved their cat because she was also very affectionate. Anyway, when it comes to sculpting, board trouble, do you have a sculpting program like ZBrush or Sculptress, or a program that has sculpting in it like Blender? You see me looking this way, I'm looking at the popped out chat. Okay. I would recommend trying out Sculptress or Blender, but be warned. Using one of these... Get up from behind there. Using one of these... a mouse... compared to using a Wacom tablet and stylus is like the difference between using a rattle can and using an airbrush. Just to let you know, it's even worse than it is in Photoshop. Excuse me. In Photoshop, it's not needed. It just helps a lot. When sculpting, when you add in that 3rd dimension, it really makes a difference. Which makes you wonder, what is computer graphics like to a 5-dimensional being? Does it have 4 dimensions and a virtual 5th? And which dimension is virtual? Time? Probability? X, Y, or Z? Who knows? Ah, I see. Yeah, my show was a little late today because we had cable outage. I've recently started doing my show at 7:30 because 9:30 time to put whatever I sculpted up on Thingiverse, and then I'm supposed to be meeting friends at local ATC Fitness at about 10:30. To, you know, make these guns a little bit bigger, a little bit more cut. Yeah, it was like I got guns. Yeah, it's a 22. Get rid of Mr. Gut down here. And then on Sundays, don't forget, like it says down there, I have Patreon sculpts at 1 Central US time and 8. Like I said, right now, just so you can compare clocks, it is 9 minutes after 9 p.m. in this time zone. What's it in your time zone? If you don't mind my asking, of course. I don't know if there's anyone alive who has seen all of my shows. This, as you can see, is episode 185. 185 in a little over a year. Okay, your central time zone then. Anyway. Yep. I'm in Memphis, Tennessee. Yay. One of the worst cities to live in the United States when it comes to crime, and one of the lowest cost cities to live in. I'm in a 2.5 bedroom. By that I mean they have something they call a bedroom, but it's too small. 1 bath house that I rent for $550 a month. And hello, Mark! Memphis, Tennessee, not Baltimore. Now, one thing about Memphis a lot of people don't know, despite being the buckle of the Bible Belt, the city is actually pretty liberal. We were one of the first city governments to extend benefits such as life insurance and health insurance to same-sex partners. And we also recently had our local school board post. All right, 901 is our area code, telephone area code. They posted "We Are 901," which is the little official city city pride sticker with a rainbow on it, and they said, you know, and Pride for Pride Month we salute our LGBTQ plus faculty, parents, students, and other associated people. And for a city in the South, that is remarkably progressive. But by the same token, we've been in the top 10 crimes per capita for a long time. And until like 2 years ago, we had there was a period where we had 3 of the top 10 worst neighborhoods in the United States. And one of them is right around Graceland, Elvis's home. Yep. When the fans who had actually watched Elvis live started to die out or get relegated to nursing homes and didn't come by Graceland very much anymore, that entire area's economy collapsed. You park next to Graceland. If you don't park in Graceland's parking lot or in the hotel next to Graceland, you will get your car broken into. You will get your car stolen. You will get possibly mugged on your way to Graceland. It's not a good area of town. Some people don't even like stopping at red lights in that area of town because they can get carjacked. Mm-hmm. Oh, Mark, you didn't see what we sculpted. What we did was we did a demon book dice tower. Kind of an organic, almost like brain matter book dice tower. Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to be putting the blank version of the book and the evil version up on Thingiverse later tonight. What is your question? What is your question, Mark? It's a question mark. Hey! ZBrush is good for things like irregular rocks, ground, and rubble, and things like that, but it's not so good for more regular shapes. I'll be doing it mostly in 3D Studio Max, and then maybe some refining in ZBrush. Yeah, there was a cool eye on the back of the I put on the back of the book, but I crashed ZBrush, and the autosave hadn't made it to the eyeball yet. So there was no eyeball. I should note that after that next week, next Monday, next Monday, I'm going to a dentist office for an evaluation, and I will be making an appointment at that time. And after that appointment, there will be an extended period where I will not have a broadcast. The reason being is I won't have teeth. My teeth were damaged when I was active duty, and they won't admit that it was their fault. They removed my wisdom teeth, and it cracked the roots. Infection went. Teeth are now crap. And I'm getting them all pulled, and I'm getting false teeth. So yeah, 20 extractions in one go. But I'll finally have teeth again and be able to eat steak and potato chips and apples. Mm-hmm. Now, another thing I have decided on is I have got planned out the pieces, so to speak, of what I'm calling the Forgotten Empire. That's my next Kickstarter. It is mostly terrain. There are some miniatures involved, but it's mostly terrain. There's going to be 4 major set pieces. Palace, High Temple, the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, and the Tower of Babel. All 4 will have both a brand new, as in at its time, external geometry in levels with layout. So you can, you have the walls in place. And a ruined version where it's just the walls crumbling, the internals may or may not be there. And the Tower of Babel will also have a dice tower version. You drop the dice in and they wee. There will also be city gate, gatehouse, houses, including one house that has, you can take off the roof and see the layout. Then scattered terrain like jugs and furniture and barrels and things like that. Then the figures will include peasants, guards and soldiers, merchants and nobles, and legendary heroes like Enkidu and Gilgamesh. And all of them will have live and undead versions. So, modern day, live. In the future, undead. The heroes will also have stylized statues and ruined statues. And then for the critters. There's not a lot of critters, really. What I've got, the Shedu and Lamassu, that will have both a live and an undead version. No. They will have live and statue and ruined statue versions. There's the Urdimu, that are dogmen, and there will be an undead version. The Ugalu, a lion, scorpion, centaur, which will have an statue, ruined statue, and undead version. The Agrabamelu, which is the scorpion man, pretty much the Rock from Scorpion King, that will have live statue, ruined statue, and undead versions. Akkazu, a demon that we don't know much about except we know it was named the Caesar, and it would strangle people in their sleep. And because it's a demon, it's only got the live version. And then Labu, which is, you may have seen that Sumerian dragon that's kind of horse-like, long legs, long neck and tail, more of like a horse-like build. There's going to be undead statue and ruined statue, or live statue and ruined statue versions. Being a dragon, it probably doesn't have an undead version. There's a lot of parts planned for this potential thing. I might sculpt live for some of it. Most of these creatures are actual myth and legend. I'm pulling it from Sumeria, Akkadia, Babylon, Assyria, the Mesopotamian region in ancient times. That's why I'm calling it Forgotten Empires. The style of it is going to be based on, Sumer, Ur, Babylon, the whole 9 yards. Like I said, I'm going to do some of it live, some of it like the larger set pieces. There's no way I'll be able to do it in a 2-hour period. So, they're not going to be live. But I am going to be doing 100% of it myself. Now, okay, it's almost 9:30. I can go ahead and call it a night. So, what I usually do, I stick my hand up here, and I'm going to count from 5 to 1. And the overall concept is pretty much Mesopotamia, with a little bit of a mystical element. But I've got references to how they think the buildings actually looked in ancient days. So Anyway, so this is going to be my hand. I'm going to count down from 5 to 1. When I get to 1, I'm going to say something unusual and then go So, that's going to be a 5, 4, 3, 2, a 1. If I was able to duplicate myself, and I killed my duplicate, would that be suicide or murder?